All right, folks, you are listening to the Yishai Fleischer Show. We have a very unusual show for you today. First, we're going to start off with an awesome and unusual wedding where Malkah Fleischer and I attended, and also some of the other folks that you have heard their names before or heard their voices before. Very special wedding that's coming up right now. And I'm in the car going home from the wedding with Malkah Fleischer. Malkah, shalom.
Shalom.
That was a good shaloming, Malkah.
Yeah, thanks. So, Yishai, we have had some ups and downs over the last couple days. Yesterday was brutal. Brutal for the Jewish nation. Brutal for us. Seeing what happened in Beersheba.
What happened?
The murder of 4 people. The orphaning of 10 people. 10 little people. 10 children. And of course, and then today, I went on social media, and just to see the just unabashed celebration happening on the part of pro-Palestine movement people, a lot of it in Arabic. So they think that nobody knows what they're saying.
No, they actually have no problem with people knowing what they're saying. They are proud of it. And everybody knows what happened, that this terrorist came out of a Bedouin town and went and murdered 4 Jews with awful stabbings and awful videos. And I feel much better now after this wedding, because I was just down in the dumps. I was broken in my heart, and I just couldn't bear it. And there's so many things around the story, and we'll talk about it throughout the wedding as well, that were so heartbreaking in that whole story. What can I tell you, Malkah? I'm just kind of, we're here right now driving on Derech Hebron. It's called the way to Hebron, but it's actually, we're right next to the old city. We're right next to Mount Zion Gate. And I got a little bit of solace at this wedding that I desperately needed, because it was just such a heartbreaking thing. Not just the murder itself, but also the weakness of Israeli security services at this time, the growth of jihadism in our land. And, these moments where you're like, Jews, we say never again. And yet, here was a very never again moment, and it happened yet again. So it was heartbreaking. And today's wedding was just what I needed to lift my spirit back up. And just being here right next to the old city of Yerushalayim, there's nothing more uplifting than that. The consolation of Jerusalem is our consolation. The rebuilding of Jerusalem is the rebuilding of our people. And even though we still have weaknesses, just to be able to see the walls of Jerusalem rebuilt, Tivnei Chomot Yerushalayim, God, may you rebuild the walls of Jerusalem, and here they are rebuilt, and we're inside of them. It gave me that solace that I needed.
Yeah, I definitely felt like a soothing inside my heart going to this wedding, and it was a very special wedding because it was the wedding of people who had just converted this morning.
Finished their conversion process.
They finished the conversion, meaning to say they converted. That's it. That's it. It's not like, I don't think you get 60% to yesterday and 40% today. You finish your mikvah dunk and that's it. Now you're Jewish. So that was pretty amazing. And this couple, beautiful couple with many children, and they got converted in the morning and had their Jewish wedding in the evening. And the people that were taken from us yesterday, they are not replaceable. It's not as if you can say, well, 4 people were taken and 4 people came and we're even now. It's not like that. And yet these people were ripped out of our heart, these 4 Jews, amazing people, parents. And today was born new Jews, people who know very well what it looks like here in the land of Israel. They're people who are informed. They read the news. And with all of that, they chose to become part of the Jewish nation and take on all the commitments that entails, not just the commitments of Torah, which are the massive, overwhelming majority of commitment, but also the commitment to the nation, and whatever happens to the people happens to them. And they could have lived a very comfortable and good, upstanding life as non-Jews in America, and have been wonderful, great people, just as they were. But instead, they chose to leave everything behind, come to the land of Israel. And, you know, I want to give a special recognition to the mother of the bride, the mother of the wife, who did not undergo a conversion today. And yet she was here in Jerusalem at the wedding of her daughter, meaning to say she had been at a wedding once, right? When her daughter, she thought, married this guy, and then they went on to have kids. But she came all the way to Jerusalem to this like Jewish Orthodox wedding. And she was there and she was dancing and watching the kids and smiling and just supporting her daughter all the way through. I thought that was unbelievable. So, you know, because one could easily have a different scenario in which the parent is not so overjoyed or is, you know, tolerant of the situation, but not over happy about it. And here you had this incredibly classy, beautiful lady there to support her daughter and her grandkids as they like completely changed religions from the religion that they had been when she had been raising, you know, when she had been raising them.
Right. Now,
and so I just, it gave me a lot of hope in my heart for the future and a lot of belief that we are, our path is, you know, they can punch us in the face a little bit, but we're going to keep going on our path, and our path is, we're unstoppable on that path.
Yeah, Hashem is making it unstoppable. And right now we are driving still on Derech Hebron, and I see now that we are close to Armon Hatziv, the great lookout point over the old city of Jerusalem, the Has Promenade, and we're actually passing one of the holiest places in all of Jerusalem, the Katzefet ice cream shop here in Derech Hebron. I know it's holy because it's always filled with people, and there's always a yearning. Here's our dentist office as well, at a building that was built just in the last few years. And we are passing close to Talpiot, which is the southern kind of neighborhood of Jerusalem, and some of the new towers. My friend lives on the 22nd floor, I think, of that tower right over there, which has the most incredible, breathtaking view. I go to his house, I sit on his couch there, look over the whole of Jerusalem and the Temple Mount. It's just mind-blowing. Malkah, today's show is also going to have a segment that I did on Fox Radio about Route 60, the Israel Biblical Highway, and also about Abraham's Well in Hebron. So that's with Lauren Green on Lighthouse Faith Radio on Fox Radio. That's really cool. Lighthouse Faith. That's a great show, Lauren Green, and she has me on from time to time. And I just want to say it's great to go out with you as well, Malkah, on a night out. The grandma is watching the kids, so that's really fun. And we're going to have first the wedding sounds that I recorded, and then after that, Ben Bresky is going to stick in the interview that I did on Fox, which I think you're going to enjoy. And I also want to thank all the folks that make this show possible. If it's Yocheved, if it's Tabitha, Ben Bresky, Moshe, Herman out in beautiful Idaho, and also Lou that helped make this show get out to the world, and the folks who support, like Krista, who bought me a few coffees last week, which was really so nice of her, and the good folks that are here connected to us. And one of the things that I remembered this week is that I kind of made a commitment that I'm going to also make sure that the Jewish people that are listening to the show feel connected to the land of Israel and to Torah, and those people who are part of what I call the International Torah Congregation know what's going on this week. And the first thing is, of course, we light a candle for the people who were murdered, for the 4 people who were murdered this week. If you can, if you feel the pain of Jerusalem, of Israel, of Beersheba, light a candle. And the other thing is that this week is the Torah portion of Shmini, which is, I think, the 3rd Torah portion in the book of Leviticus, and which is about the tabernacle being activated and the fire of God coming down, but also after lapping up the sacrifice of the Jewish people, also laps up another sacrifice, which is the 2 sons of Aaron, Nadav and Avihu, who were taken for there's a disagreement or different opinions about what was the reason that they were taken. One reason is that they spoke Torah law. They taught Torah law in front of Moses. What's it called, Malkah?
Like disrespectful.
Right, disrespectful, like upstaging him, I guess. That's the word I was looking for. And then that was one opinion. Another opinion is maybe they were a little bit inebriated. Why do I say that? Because the very next thing that's taught to Aaron is don't come in to the service while inebriated. So there's some people that say, well, they were probably inebriated, that's why they got in trouble. And then there's the Torah simple answer, which is they brought a strange fire, a fire that was not called for, a strange sacrifice, strange fire. But another reason, Malkah, and even Rashi says it, is that he says, I knew that this project was so great that there would be lives that would be offered up, taken. And I thought that it might be me or you, Moses says to Aaron. I thought maybe it could be me or you, but I found out that your two sons, Nadav and Avihu, were even higher than us.
Wow.
They were a more perfect, unblemished, offering a sacrifice unto God. And I say all this, Malkah, because this also gave me a lot of solace about the people who were so heinously murdered by the hateful and detestable jihad that's in our land, and yet I in my heart believe that these people were taken in some way as some kind of offering, some kind of expiation, some kind of perfection that they had, and they were taken out of this world. I like to believe that. So that's Parshat Shmini, and so I call to the International Torah Congregation to read from the book of Leviticus, and also about what is kosher and not kosher in animals. For example, split hooves, good. Not split hooves, don't eat it. Fins and scales, needed for fish to eat them. No fins and scales like an eel, don't eat it. Rabbit, don't eat it. Camel, don't eat it. Pig, ta-da! Negative on pig, negative on pork. And so also the secrets about how the Jewish people have continuity. And this is what we read. So check it out in the book of Leviticus. Malkah, for you, kashrut's very important. You sure are the boss / slave driver / commander of the kitchen.
set you free, okay? I'm not the slave driver. I'm the Moshe Rabbeinu of the kitchen.
You are indeed the Moshe Rabbeinu of the kitchen. You're the Moshe Rabbeinu of our life. Speaking of Moshe Rabbeinu, Malkah, we have a lot of sponsors to the show. What's the connection? I don't know. But folks make the show possible, like JNS News Service, jns.org, and also jewishpress.com. These are great news services that will let you know what's really going on in the world. And by the way, speaking of Moshe Rabbeinu, who fights and cries for his people, for the Jewish people, we're just passing, as we're driving home south from Jerusalem, we're just passing near to the tomb of Rachel right now. Tomb of Rachel, there she is. She's still crying for all the Jewish people to come home, and for all of you out there, for a world of peace, and certainly for the people of Israel. I'm just kind of mentioning that because that's like a normal part of driving around here. Like there's Kever Rachel right over there. And I also want to thank the folks at Prohibition Pickle, keeping us all pickled and happy. Indeed, Chaim did come right before Purim
with the nicest mishloach manot you've ever seen in your whole life.
You have never seen such a good mishloach manot. And I still have a great salami for this Shabbos. That's Prohibition Pickle. Check it out on Facebook and on Instagram. I also want to thank... Who else do I want to thank? Oh, the Israel Bible. Check out the Israel Bible. There's like the Israel Bible, which is the Bible, but then there's the Israel Bible, which is this amazing printing of the Bible in English and Hebrew with transliteration, with Torah explanations in English, just about the specific issue of the land of Israel. It's a beautiful Bible. I gave one to Mike Pence in Hebron. It was really cool. Type in coupon code Yishai and bang, you get 10% off from God's holy truth. Okay, so 10%.
You don't get 10% off of God's holy truth. It's like you get it cheaper.
Exactly right. Malkah, it's just such a pleasure and fun to be driving with you right now. And I really hope that folks stay together with us right now as we go to a very special wedding, which gave me a lot of solace, a lot of nachas, a lot of sense of how should we say? When you have such a hurt and there's a healing. That's exactly what I felt, a healing. So, Malkah Fleischer, thanks so much for being with me. And anything else you want to add, Malkah?
No, let's get to it.
Here's a holy wedding from Jerusalem. All right, folks. Yishai Fleischer here. We're at a wedding. And that's the way I want to start the show, because this week Israel saw 4 Jews murdered in a heinous fashion. And the only thing that kept me going was knowing that I would come to this very special wedding. And this special wedding is not only special because it's a Jewish wedding in Jerusalem, but also because this is a wedding of Jewish converts. Folks who lived their lives for many, many years and had a lot of kids and had a lot of success, but have decided to shift gears, come to Israel, become Jewish, and are getting married after their conversion's been done and finished. And here they are. I'm looking right now at the Chatan, and I'm looking at him with his kids. And he's embracing them under the chuppah. And there's so much joy here, as opposed to what happened yesterday, which is the 4 murdered people. And this, as I said to you before, was giving me strength all day to get through today and yesterday, knowing that I'm going to be coming to a place where Jews are reborn, as opposed to being murdered. I'm here with Zev Warrenstein, my good friend. He's the Director of International Affairs at the City of David. Zev, welcome to the Pittenger wedding. Mazal Tov.
Mazal Tov, Yishai.
Tell me about how you're feeling right now. Did you share my feelings that there was a brokenness and this is a tikkun for that?
One of the secrets of the Jewish people is we're named after the 4th son of our matriarch Leah, who, when she named her son Judah, she said, "This time I will give thanks to the Lord." After the first 3 kids who were given names that she felt very unloved. And I think that's the secret of the Jewish people, that we go through a lot of challenging moments, but we recognize that in the end, everything we have is a blessing. Everything we have is a gift. Every day that we have here in the land of Israel with the Jewish people coming home is a gift. And the more gratitude we're able to see, the blessings that we're able to see, I think the happier we're able to be. And it doesn't take away from the days like we had yesterday, which are filled with pain, but at the same time to recognize that we have a certain koach, a certain energy that we're able to not forget the pain, but to build off of it and have moments like this and remember the difficult moments while celebrating the joyous occasions that are built on all those thousands of years of challenging memories that allow us to celebrate where we are today after 2,000 years of exile, and the best days are still to come.
As you're saying this, the Kala, again, these people have been married for many years, but they're new people now. But in their old version, they were been married for many years with a lot of kids, and she's circling around him 7 times right now as we're talking. And it's even rude of me to record right now, but I don't care because I just thought, what an opportunity to share with the world. You know, Zev, you and I have been working for many years in the issue of kibbutz galuyot, the ingathering of the exiles. That's really where we started, where we met on that issue. I spoke to a group of converts, or in convert training. I told them that's the real kibbutz galuyot. When you were born in a Gentile body and you wanted to come back to the nation, then come back to the land of Israel, that's real kibbutz galuyot. That's what I feel like right now.
I mean, it's amazing here. These people, this very special family, they've chosen the God of Israel. They've chosen the land of Israel. They have, 7 kids, 8 kids. And when they converted, it's almost like a new start, and they've chosen each other all over again. And that's the amazing thing of like an Aseh V'Nishma. We will choose to be with each other, to be with the God of Israel, the land of Israel, with the people of Israel. And it's really special that this is what you see here, people who are choosing life. Hashem says to us in the book of Deuteronomy, I put before you today life and death. Choose life. And that's what we do every day here in the land of Israel. That's what these holy people are doing, choosing life.
All right, we're going to keep paying attention to the beautiful ceremony. Rabbi Menachem is from what's the yeshiva called? From Mechon Meir is officiating, and it's a very powerful moment. And you're here with us.
You become clean. It's like Yom Kippur. It's the day that you're cleansed of all your past history, difficulties, whatever it is, and you start fresh, like a newborn baby. As a matter of fact, when someone dunks in the mikvah and becomes Jewish, the Talmud compares that to being like a newborn baby. And so you're doubly a newborn baby. But the truth is, somewhere around here, we have a few other newborn babies. And so we're not just celebrating one birthday, but 10 birthdays. It's unbelievable. Now you're all going to have the same birthday.
more economical to have one cake for everyone.
It's really the birth, as I said, of a Jewish family. It's so exciting. And as I'm officially here, a teacher of Reuven, and it's an honor and a privilege. But the truth is, I feel in many ways Reuven is my teacher, and if I speak for my friends and colleagues and fellow students, in many ways Reuven is our teacher. Reuven and the whole family really teach us what it is to be inspired, what it is to love Judaism, what it is to love Hashem, and to be so excited to learn each and every new idea, new mitzvah, new commandment, new vision of Judaism, and how you can implement that in your everyday life. And we thank you. We thank you for sharing that with us and inspiring us and teaching us. So it's a privilege and an honor to be with you. And with your permission, we'll begin. I'd like to finally bless Reuven and Megira. That's right, Jody, Megira. That the love that has brought them so far on such a journey from North Carolina and so many experiences and such a long journey to make it to this day. That love is what brought you here, what kept you together. Love of God, love of the Jewish people, love of Torah, the love of each other. And no less important, this is my blessing to you, that this love, all these loves, should only grow and grow, get stronger and more powerful and more sweet. And you should have only blessings. Usually at a chuppah, I bless that you should have children. There's no upper limit. When I was a kid, there was a TV show, 8 is enough, but you don't have to follow the TV shows. There's no upper limit, but you brought a blessing already to the world, and you'll continue to bring blessings, and all those blessings shall be showered back upon you. From the bottom of my heart, Mazal Tov. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher קידשנו מצוותיו וציוונו על האריות ואסר לנו את הארוסות והתיר לנו את הנשואות לנו על ידי חופה וקידושים. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש עמו ישראל על ידי חופה וקידושים. אמן.
The land that was barren is so happy that her children have come home. And they've come home from so far away. All the way back here, and the land of Israel is so happy that you're here with your beautiful family. Like, what an amazing opportunity in Yerushalayim to be saying these words with you guys together under this chuppah. I don't know what to do with myself. Sos tasis v'tagel ha'akara בקיבוץ בניה לתוכה בשמחה ברוך אתה אדוני משמח ציון בבניה אמן ושבו בנים ושבו בנים לגאולה ושבו בנים ושבו בנים ושבו בנים לגאולה ושבו
Beautiful blessing, Jeremy Gimpel, Rabbi Jeremy Gimpel. Thank you so much for coming to this wedding and cheering me up a little bit because of the sadness of yesterday. Tell me about how you're feeling at this special moment.
It's been a 13-year journey with me and Reuven and Meira, and it's every once in a while you have like climaxes in life. All the work that we do, spreading the light, kind of bringing people back to their source. It's amazing. It's a miracle. It's prophecy. It's destiny. in the heart of Yerushalayim. Like, what could be better?
אשר ברא ששון ושמחה, חתן וכלה, גילה רינה ניצה וחדווה, אהבה ואחווה, ושלום ורעות. והאירה אדוני לנשמה, בערי יהודה, ובחוצות ירושלים. ששון וכל שמחה, כל חתן וכל כלה, כל ששון וכל שמחה, כל חתן וכל כלה, כל ניצלות ותנך וחתם, כל נערים ומשתה נגינתם, כל ששון וכל שמחה, כל חתן וכל כלה, כל מצלות חתנים מחופתם, ונערים ומשתה נגינתם. ברוך אתה אדוני, משמח חתן עם הכלה.
Okay, the whole family and all the kids are going to sing Mishkachech.
Yerushalayim, Tishkach Yemini, Tibak Nishoni, Olechiki, Imlo, Eskevedi, Tishkach Yemini, Tibak Nishoni, Olechiki, Imlo, Eskevedi, Imlo Yerushalayim al rosh simchati, al rosh simchati, imlo
Reuven, formerly Bobby, this is your wedding day, and you've been married for many years, and yet you're getting remarried today. But as a Jew, I'm bothering you right in the middle of the wedding here. But just give me a thought about what this is all about, what this is all like for you.
You know, first of all, thank you, Rabbi Yishai. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the work that you do representing Hebron, the Jewish community of Hebron. And may we grow and expand Hebron soon and bigger and better than it's ever been before. And, you know, I'll tell you the thought that comes to mind. Speaking of Hebron, you know my new name. My new name is Reuven ben Avraham. And I think of my new father, Avraham. I am the son of Avraham. Avraham Avinu. Oh my goodness, that's what comes to mind. Who am I? Who am I to now be called a son of Avraham? I'm so grateful. I'm so humbled. I'm grateful for this day. Grateful so much to Hashem to be living in the land of Israel at this time, at this moment, at this day.
But you didn't really need this. You had a good life. You were doing well. You come from a strong family. You were doing well in America. To change your life, to come to Israel, to join this peoplehood. And the day before your wedding, 4 Jews are murdered in the streets of Beersheba. Was there a thought in your mind somewhere that's like, do I need this? What do I need this for?
You know,
Go ahead. We'll finish it.
Yeah. You know, it's such a tragedy what happened yesterday. The sweet Chabad rabbi who was tragically stabbed and died. And but you know what? It shows that Am Yisrael Chai. We go on, we fight, and we no one is going to stop us from growing the land of Israel, from expanding the land of Israel, from building the land of Israel, from building Yerushalayim, from building the Beit HaMikdash. Yes, indeed. I came from North Carolina. And,
from a strong family.
I love my family back in North Carolina. Amazing people. And, I'm here because we love Hashem. We just love Hashem. We wanted to be in the land of Israel.
Can I ask you to please tell everybody about the first mitzvah you did today, and on camera? I want
This is Rabbi Weinberg.
Yes, Rabbi Weinberg,
teacher of Mechon Meir, and the founder of an organization to help converts called Ohev Ger. Why don't you tell us the first mitzvah when you came out of the Beit Din today?
Yeah, the first mitzvah after I came out of the Beit Din, I donated to Ohev Ger, run by Rav Weinberg. With a single special purpose, and that purpose is to help families like ours, people like us, who have just finished a ger, and they finish the ger, and then they ask the questions. Okay, now what? What do we do? That's what Rav Weinberg is here doing. He's here to help families like us, people like us, really make it in the Jewish world, in the land of Israel, to thrive, to grow and to thrive.
I have listeners from all over the world, Alaska, all kinds of places, and they're not Jews, but they love Judaism, they love Torah, they want to follow its ways. What advice do you have for the Gentile who loves God, who understands that the Bible is real, who loves Israel? Like, what's your advice to a person that's on that path?
That's a great question. You're talking about the righteous goyim who love God, who love Hashem, and they want to do what's right. Go to thelandofisrael.com. And find Rav Yishai Fleischer's podcast, and listen to it every single week. My family, we listened to I don't know how many podcasts for years and years and years. We listened to Rav Yishai Fleischer and his wife Malkah, their podcast every single Sunday night for years, and it was the greatest thing in our family. We sat at the dining room table and we just listened to them talk about the land of Israel. It's soaking in the land of Israel. Listen to almost every city in the world there's a Chabad, and Chabad is a beautiful organization, and you can CHABAD again for those out in West Texas. CHAB as in boy, A, D as in dog, and they're beautiful people, beautiful organization, and they have local people who can help guide in the right path.
So in short, get closer to Judaism, to Torah, to the land of Israel. Rav Weinberg is here. If you choose to go all the way, somebody's going to pick you up and hold your hand here.
So if you feel such a connection to Hashem, you feel such a connection that you want to join the Jewish people. But see, you don't know what to do. You don't know where to turn. I tell you what, there's two places. There's where you need to go. You need to go to Google, and type in Machon, M as in Miriam, ACHON as in Nancy, Machon Meir.
M-E-I-R, yes.
M as in Miriam, E-I-R. Just Google Machon Meir, and this website will pop up. It's amazing. You can actually listen to Shirim, like talks, live. You can listen to the greatest teachers in the world right there in your living room, on your phone, in a train, and I highly recommend it.
So basically, plug in, and there's ways to do it, and that may lead you to a wedding in Jerusalem. God bless you. Mazal tov, mazal tov, mazal tov. I'm here at the wedding of the Pittenger family. Used to be non-Jews, now they're Jews. And we're celebrating in Jerusalem just one day after an awful attack. And as I've been saying, this has really given me a lot of nachas, a lot of strength to kind of keep going, because I was totally broken up yesterday. One of the people that I look to for strength, and one of the people who also provides me with a great news feed once a week with information about what happened in Israel with a lot of humor, but also with a lot of edge, is Rabbi Ben Packer, who's also the guy in charge of the Heritage House, and brings volunteers to do great renovation work all over Judea and Samaria and in the old city of Jerusalem, and is also one of the co-directors of Young Jewish Conservatives, which is a great movement, and I've been privileged to have a Shabbat at YJC in D.C. Ben Packer, thanks so much for being with me. Mazal tov.
Happy to be here.
Tell me about this
I get a lot
wedding.
of strength from you also, Yishai. So this is a heck of an event. This is an event like from the dream. This is a dream of an event.
Yesterday, these people were not Jews. Now they're Jews.
It's I know them for many years, and to see the path that they came on and their dedication. I called Bobby a few months ago and asked him to come with me actually to Hebron, and he said I have to be in yeshiva. I'm dedicated to this process, and to see somebody dedicated to the process to really do what they say they're going to do. It's really a beautiful thing to see.
When you say dedicated to the process, you also mean the process, the intellectual process of the study of becoming a Jew. That's a very interesting part about naturalization to the Jewish world. Part of it is a mental naturalization of becoming knowledgeable in the, shall we say, secret pack, the way that we do things.
Yeah, and it's probably especially challenging to an accomplished person like Bobby and Jody. They're accomplished people. Now they're going to have to come and say, I have to learn all this information and start from scratch. You know what kind of humility that must take? I don't think I can fathom that kind of humility. It's really a process of incredible humility that I know I don't think I could handle, and I don't think many people can handle. And they handled it in stride in a way. So it's very inspiring and amazing.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think it reflects on their bigness and that they're willing to be small at this moment.
These are important people. These people are important people in their society. And they have, it's really unbelievable.
Now, Ben, yesterday afternoon, I had a good meeting, an important meeting, and I'm driving home, and I'm getting home, and I'm tired, and suddenly this thing unfolds of a lone, and I say lone, I mean one guy. I don't mean that he was one of these beliefs that he was completely, detached from society. Here's an Israeli, this is his legal definition, an Israeli Bedouin Arab who sat in prison for his affiliation with frickin' ISIS, and yet he was deemed to be not so dangerous. Yesterday goes out on a spree, and sadly, a successful spree. Sometimes it's a matter of quote-unquote luck. He kept going. He was driving his car, ran a guy over, a car got stopped. He comes out with a knife, stabs people in a horrendous fashion, and takes a long time, like 8 minutes, to take him down. And even then, with great hesitancy, because of the concern that the two Jews with guns had for not getting their guns taken away. Later on, after this heroic shooting of the bad guy, a whole saga erupts about their guns being taken away by the police. Really like a moment where the Israeli police, the state of Israel looks weak vis-a-vis Bedouin Arabs. Security is lost. The word fear, which I detest, is said over and over and over again on the radio. You're a news junkie. Explain to me how we see this thing.
I would say, first of all, I live in the old city of Jerusalem, so I know how bad the Israeli police can be. But I want to focus for a second. It is true that the people that took down the terrorists, maybe on the video it did look like hesitancy, and I think it probably was. But at the end of the day, they did take down the terrorist, and that must be emphasized. They stopped the carnage. They took out the terrorist. They ended the threat. And that, I think, is a very big deal. I think it's a very big deal. I think it gives inspiration to a lot of other people who would like to think they would do the same. And so I think I personally try to focus on that to a large degree. Number two, listen, it's incredibly sad. And these people who were killed seemingly had very little chance of fighting off the terrorists. They were just taken by surprise, and this is what happened. We have to also think about all the other stabbing attacks that we've had recently where we didn't have these kind of results, and be thankful for those. Because really, they could all be like this one. So we have to be thankful. So that's two positive things I'd like to take out of the thing, despite the fact that it's horrific, and there are orphans and families are
10 orphans, by the way.
Yeah, it's really sad. It's really sad. But probably not surprising to anybody as well. We know that there's been a lot of incitement, specifically within the Bedouin community in the Negev, where this individual came from, this terrorist. So no one, I think, is surprised by this. No one is surprised by the police not responding. There's unfortunately no surprises here. It's
Well, the greatest lack of surprise is that we're allowing this entity to grow within our country, which is this Palestine that's growing within. And Palestine takes on many forms. It's a Palestine for Israeli Arabs, for Israeli Bedouins, for so-called Palestinians. These lines are fabricated. In reality, there's a consciousness line, a consciousness border that's being built, and a type of, they call it a fifth column, whatever you want to call it. But there's a growing entity within Israel. The numbers are big, and the state of Israel is continuously showing its post-Zionist modality, and we are just not at the zenith of strength, and the enemy senses that. And also, by the way, the friends of Israel sense that.
certainly. I mean, listen, any group is only as good as its leader. With bad leadership, you really can't expect much. It's just the nature of how things work in the world. Bad rabbi for a community, very little chance the community is going to be successful. We have a head of the police right now that gave a speech at the funeral where he didn't even realize the terrorists had been killed. Our government, there's a lot of problems at the top. I'm not saying there's nothing to be done, but there's a lot of problems at the top. When there's a lot of problems at the top, unfortunately, you got to expect a lot of problems. So we have a problem at the top right now. We have members of the government who are of that fifth column. I would say probably a majority. And I'm not only talking about the Arab Party. They're not even the worst party probably in the current government. Post-Zionist is a term used to describe them. I would just call them enemies of Israel. And they're in the leadership positions, which is absolute insanity. It's insanity. Maybe it's crazy that the Arab Party is there, but it's even crazier that Meretz is there. It's insanity.
I just want you to know that I was speaking to Dr. Mordechai Kedar, who was one of my mentors, and he just said to me, and I knew this to be true. He's like, the Saudis, the UAE folks, the Egyptians are like, what is with you guys? And they use language which is harsh, but I'll tell you what they say. What he told me they say to the Israeli government. They say to the Israeli government, quash them like cockroaches. Now, I'm not using that terminology in mind. I'm telling you how the Saudis tell the Israeli government to deal with the Palestinian Authority.
I was just recently in North Carolina, where Bobby and Jody are from, the bride and groom here from tonight, and I gave a speech there, and a non-Jewish woman came to the speech, and she asked me one of the hardest questions. She said, how do I explain to young Jewish people these Israeli left-wing Jews who are doing these terrible things? That's a very hard question. Not a very nice question. It's a good question. But I mean, the answer is, listen, we have issues. We have weak spots that we need to work on, and this is a big one. It's a tough situation, but listen, the future is bright. The future is bright. Look at a wedding like this. You look what we're seeing in parts of the world. In Hebron right now, as I'm sure Yishai points out regularly, if you walk through the streets of Hebron, it's Jewish construction site after Jewish construction site. It's absolutely amazing. It sends a message, that's for sure. There's a lot of bright. We have some weak spots we got to work on. I got to go to the gym too. We got some stuff to work on.
All right, Ben Packer, Mazal Tov. And for me, this, as I was saying at the intro, for me, this wedding is a nechama. It's a consolation for the pain of yesterday, and may we be consoled by the rebuilding of Yerushalayim, Yer Kodesh.
Amen. Amen.
All right, so I'm here with Ravit. He looks like a frum Jew, dressed in a suit, three-piece suit and a hat, black hat. And the Chatan, the groom, just walked you over to me, Ravit, and told me that you only found out that you were Jewish at the age of 50 and had a circumcision at the age of 60. And the reason you guys met is because you were both studying together at Machon Meir. Is that right, Ravit?
That's right. I like to join this story from me. I was born in Germany from a Jewish woman. My mother, she's a Jew, and she was very much traumatized about the Shoah, her whole family were killed during the Shoah. Her mother was killed in Auschwitz. And so I was born in Germany, and they didn't, my mother and my father, they didn't tell the children that we are Jews. They want to protect us. So we went to the church, the Christian church, and we didn't know that we are Jewish. So, but something inside of us, we felt that there's something more we don't understand. We always had the questions to our parents.
So, Ravi, you were telling me that you were raised and you were going to church, and you didn't know that you were Jewish.
That's right. That's right. So we didn't go every week to church, but because my mother, she wanted to hide the Jewish life, and so we felt something. There's something inside, and we had these questions, and she never gave answers. She said, "Oh, don't talk about it. It's history. Don't ask anymore." So we didn't ask. And at the age of 20, I think it was, she told me.
Yes.
Okay, so we felt something inside. There need to be something, but we didn't get the answers. And at the age of 20, I had these answers of my mother. She said, "We are Jewish."
Oh, she threw it out there.
Yes, but we didn't understand. What does it mean? It's like when your mother were going to tell you one day, "I want to tell you you have blue eyes." Right. So, okay, so what's about? So, and this was nothing more coming out of her. But then we had these questions, and she told me, "Okay, your grandmother, my mother, she was killed in Auschwitz." And then I had this feeling inside, I don't like to live anymore in this country, Germany, where I was born. So I decided to leave the country. I said to my mother, "I don't want to breathe the air of the murders of our family. And I don't understand why you are still living in this country." Oh, he said, "You need to know, I also was born here and I have my background." And I said, "I'm going to leave. I'm going away." Of course, mothers don't like to hear this, but she understood. And at that moment, I decided to go to Amsterdam.
Great town, a fun town.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. And they have a very big Jewish community. But I didn't go there because I didn't know what it means to be a Jew. And there was one single thing I remember. It was something very strong. My mother, she told me when I left, "Don't tell anyone that you are a Jew. It could be dangerous." So I was trained in this and didn't told the people that I'm a Jew. And they asked me, "Where you come from?" I say, "I'm a German." And then I had problems in Germany. You need to know, in about 2 months, I will be 70 years. So
70 years old.
70 years old. So when I left to Amsterdam, it was in the year 72. And they hate the Germans so much because of the Second World War. And I had very much problems. One day they threw me out of the room where I lived because they didn't want me to be inside of the home of them. And I sleep in the street, and I had so much problems. Then I get married to a not Jewish woman because I didn't know what to do. I've been married for 40 years, and the last years of my marriage, I recognized what it means to be a Jew. I went to a rabbi, and he told me, gave me lessons, and then I decided I want to have a Jewish life. I need to do this also to honor my mother and my grandmother, and also the other members of the family. So I had these problems with my wife, my first wife. She didn't allow me to be a Jew. She didn't allow me to have a kippah, to celebrate the Shabbat and everything. And after many problems, I decided to divorce because I need to make a decision. One way I continue the life I had, and the other I need to be a Jew. So I did this, and then I went to my rabbi. I had lessons. At the age of 65, I had my Brit Milah. And after that, I decided I'm going to leave.
So you really weren't really a full Jew until the age of 65?
Yes. And then I made Aliyah 2 years ago. And I met a beautiful Jewish woman. She's an Orthodox woman. And I got married 2 years ago when I made Aliyah. And I decided I want to learn more about Torah, to come closer to Hashem. And I told her, I want to go to yeshiva. She said, why you want to go to? These are only young people. I said, I need to do it. I need to listen to the voice of Hashem. And she said, okay, if you want this, it's beautiful. Just do it. So I left the home where we lived. I looked for a room here in Yerushalayim. Now all the week I'm living in Yerushalayim, going to the yeshiva. And in the weekend, I'm going to my wife.
So you're Rabbi Akiva. You're like Rabbi Akiva,
yeah,
exactly.
Like that. And I hope, B'ezrat Hashem, I will come closer to Hashem. It's not only the knowledge I want to have about Torah, but I want to have to live Torah. It's for me the most important, and I love to do it. I enjoy it so much.
Wonderful story. Thank you so much. And God bless you. You look great. You don't look anything like your age. You look actually tremendously alive, reborn. The Torah gives us life. It's a Torah of eternity, and it looks like it's giving you a spiritual rebirth.
Thank you so much. Hashem brought me to this country, my home, to my people, and I'm so thankful. Thank you so much.
All right, folks, you are listening to the Yishai Fleischer Show, and on right now is my talk with my interview with Fox Radio, a very important show by Lauren Green, called Lighthouse Faith. It's about faith. God, we need more shows about faith around the world. And I had the great privilege to talk about some of the issues that I'm passionate about, which is Route 60, the Israel Biblical Highway, and Abraham's Well in Hebron. So here's my talk on Fox.
It is the original Bible Belt, as you will, a stretch of highway in the Middle East, a path that has existed for more than 4,000 years. It's called the Biblical Highway, Israel's Route 60. It traverses landmark events in biblical history, marking the place where the patriarchs and the matriarchs walked and lived and had encounters with God. Jacob's ladder, Rachel's tomb, and Abraham's well. The route is under restoration, but in restoring it physically will also bring a restoration and knowledge of the history that this road has for the three Abrahamic religions. Yishai Fleischer is the international spokesperson for the Jewish community of Hebron, and he joins me now to explain what's going on to this common and yet extraordinary stretch of land. Welcome, Yishai.
Thank you, Lauren. Great to be with you again.
It's wonderful to have you. I want to get to the road, but first I want to talk about Abraham's well. What is Abraham's well?
So Abraham, first, before we get to his well, we'll talk about Abraham himself. Who is Abraham? He's the first of the forefathers of the Bible. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and their wives, respectively, are the founders of monotheism. And Abraham was the first to discover how to serve the one God, and he was out there smashing idols. He was thinking about it logically, trying to figure out what is this world's purpose, and is there a God or gods? And he famously, it led him to smash his father's idols. His father had an idol store, the legend kind of says, and he went and he smashed those idols. And then he heard a call from God to go to the promised land, and he left Ur Kasdim, the Ur of Chaldeans, which is close to the Persian Gulf in Iraq. And then he went north towards Turkey, southern Turkey, to Haran. And from Haran, he went to the Holy Land. Now, the Holy Land has in it a central mountain region, and he traveled on that central mountain region all the way to the southern desert called the Negev. And he traveled through these holy cities. And one of the main cities that he traveled, and this is all in the book of Genesis, which is the first of the 5 books of Moses. And in the book of Genesis, which lays out the story of the fathers and the mothers, the founding family of Israel, there are these important cities. One of the main cities is the city that I have the pleasure and challenge of working in, and that is Hebron. Hebron is a 4,500-year-old city, but Abraham came there 3,800 years ago, so it was already a 700-year-old city.
Wow. It's funny because our only reference to Hebron is, what it is politically today, but we don't really go back and understand its biblical importance, of Hebron. And this is where Abraham settled.
It's one of the main cities that he settled in. He also was in a few other cities, like George Washington a little bit, but Hebron Hebron definitely was one of the main cities that he lived in. And we have the remains of that Canaanite city, the Hittite city of Hebron. We have found its walls. And we have found artifacts from those times. And we will actually be digging more in the future. And we know exactly where to dig to really uncover the Canaanite city of Hebron, the Hittite Canaanite city of Hebron. And it was there that Abraham settled. And he also negotiated for a burial plot for his beloved wife, Sarah, which is something very special about the Bible, that it lays out this love that Abraham had for Sarah, that Isaac had for Rebecca, etc. And he buries his beloved wife, Sarah, there in Hebron, and really creates a burial place for the rest of the first family of Israel, which in the end is going to be Abraham and Sarah, Isaac and Rebecca, Jacob and Leah. According to mystical doctrines of Judaism, Adam and Eve are buried there as well. 2,000 years after that burial, Herod built a magnificent structure atop of it, which is still there today, and people can come, and indeed do, in non-corona years, come and visit this amazing site. Now, with regarding to the well, here's something that I learned recently. Actually, my mom, who's a chemist but also a great amateur historian, she told me that she read an article recently of why is it that some of the famous springs of the Middle East are well known to this very day. Other places, there are springs and water sources, but people relocate and it gets forgotten. The reason is because in the Middle East, water is sparse. It's hard to find. And a good spring means that civilizations will stay around that spring. Even if one nation or group of people or power comes and is there for a while, for 1,000 years, then it goes away, people still congregate around that spring.
It's really very much like, the thing about it is, it's like America settled on the rivers, like the Mississippi River and, the Missouri River. All of those rivers are very important to commerce and livelihood, but also source of, of water. But I suppose in the Middle East, because water is scarce, it's about human beings needing to drink water, and wells are very important.
They are. And when you're in New Jersey, or those areas in the Northeast, if you don't like one brook, there's another one a few paces away. And when you come from Israel to America for a trip or something, you're always like, I cannot believe how much water there is around here. Big rivers, little rivers. You're just like, come on, we could use a little bit of that, and it really is like that water is hard to find. The Bible talks about Abraham digging wells. It talks about the Philistines stopping up some of those wells. It talks about Isaac finding those old wells and digging them up again. And so water is something you fight over. Remember Moses, when he runs away from Pharaoh, he sees these women and they're being kind of bullied by other shepherds over the water source. And water is also where you meet your potential wives. That's where the servant of Abraham found a wife for Isaac. That's where Jacob met Rachel on the water. You know what I mean? That's the drinking hole. That's the bar, right? Of ancient times. So
it's like happy hour.
That's right. It's happy hour at the well. That's right. And think about it. It's hot out there, and you go there, and it's probably shady. There's an oasis there, and you draw up the water, and it's nice and cool and refreshing. And that's where you're going to hang out there. Maybe even some, date trees, and it's a good place to have a date at the date tree. So the Abraham's well is still extant and alive and well, and still serves Hebron. In fact, I was there today, and it's come to a little bit of disrepair. There's been some sewage from some of the nearby houses that has crept in, and today I was speaking with an Arab, and he told me that some of the shepherds bring their flock over there, and some of the droppings from the flock end up in the water, and that's what makes it dirty. And we were having the most Middle Easternly conversation about how to keep the well clean and watch out from some of those sheep and goat droppings. And me and this Arab were having this discussion there.
How do we know? How do you know? Excuse me, but how do you know it was Abraham's well?
Great the answer is there's just no other well. That is the well that was the city's well. And if you see pictures of it, and you could type it into Wikipedia and whatever, Google, and you'll see it. It is just an ancient well. And I think the word spring is maybe more correct, but in any case, it's the thing that has kept that part of Hebron, which is the ancient city, going for thousands of years. There's just no doubt that this is the spring itself, and that's where it's been. And it's also very deep. It's got about 3 yards, you would say, we say 3 meters of water depth, and it has sustained the city since time immemorial. And therefore, it's peoples have always called it Abraham's. The Arabs and other peoples that are before it have always called it Abraham's well. In the Middle East, the oral tradition is actually very important. It's like people say from father to son, from mother to daughter, from generation to generation, this is the spot. And the same thing for the tomb of the patriarchs and matriarchs. There were some archaeologists that wanted to say this is an Edomian cultic site, but everybody's like, no, this is the tomb of Abraham. It's always been this way. And it's a very beautiful. Sometimes in the West, we might turn our noses up at that and say, well, this doesn't sound scientific. There's really nothing more scientific than the passing of heritage from one and tradition from one generation to the next.
How did people dig wells back then when they had rudimentary tools?
Lauren, when you come to Israel and see some of the archaeology, you really get blown away by what they were able to do. I mean, the tunnels from the springs in Judea to Jerusalem, these like 30-meter down tunnels dug in rock that have a small gradation so that the whole way down, it's a tiny downward slope, but brings the water from the 1,000 meters height of Judea to the 750-meter height of Jerusalem. It's an incredible feat. And think about the pyramids, and think about the tomb of the patriarchs and matriarchs, or what was the temple at the Western Wall, the entrance to the temple. They really had amazing technology, and they knew how to dig, and they knew how to work hard, and they didn't have to see their Twitter feed or anything like that. They had a full day of work and toil for the water that they needed and their flocks needed. And so they not only did they dig these wells, they knew where to find the water, and they also knew how to. If you see pictures of this well, you see that it's been like stopped. The sides of it, it's quite deep, and so to keep the sides from caving in, you had to like bury rocks in there and really make it into a wall in the ground. And they really did have amazing technology back there. And some of the stones that are holding up the tomb of the patriarchs and matriarchs are 30 tons. And in Jerusalem at the temple, there are some that are 300 tons.
Wow.
And we are just like, how do they do that? But they did. The ancients were smart, and we have great stuff, but we shouldn't think that we're way smarter than them, because if they had to send a tweet, maybe they wouldn't know how to do it. But if we had to move a 300-ton stone, I'm not sure we would know how to do that either.
Wow. A lot of elephants. I don't know. Maybe I don't know how they do things. One more question on Abraham's well. And is it being restored? What's happening with it?
Well, it's an interesting dynamic of the Israel/Palestine conflict. It's an interesting dynamic of children of Abraham, Arabs and Jews, Ishmaelites, and sons of Isaac, I guess. But just today I was there, and I brought some hardworking folks who know how to get physical stuff done, and some Arabs came, and we started talking about how do we keep this place, how do we make it better. And we talked about making a fence around it because there's a danger of somebody falling in. We talked about an elderly Arab who was a little out of his mind and somehow drowned in there. And we talked about how to keep it safe. We talked about how to the next thing that I'm doing is putting rails so that people can go down there safer. making sure that the stairs are a little bit, just a tad more flush.
I actually made a mistake and called it Route 66, which of course is in America, but Route 60 has kind of the same effect, right? In Israel. Tell Yishai, what is Route 60 in Israel?
Well, I love the comparison. You made a little slip. You called it Route 66, Route 66. And I really love that comparison a lot. And, sometimes in the Middle East, we think we have a lot to teach the world, but the truth is that America's got stuff to teach us as well. And I like to keep limber and be able to learn from everybody. And one of the things that I really love about the American idea about Route 66 and other roads is this idea of a heritage highway.
Yeah,
it's a very American thing, heritage highway. Adopt a highway, heritage highway.
Oh, yeah.
When I was a kid, my mother took me to, my mom and dad took me to Shenandoah and to Skyline Drive. And beautiful roads are part of the American ethos of freedom, of being able to go anywhere and to see it for yourself. The car will take you there. That family trip, that great American expanse. And I love that idea of the heritage highway. And as I was thinking about that, I realized that our Israel, this land, this holy land, when I say our Israel, maybe I take it back. It's really, in many ways, the heritage of so much of humankind. There's a road that connects 7 holy, historic, and biblical cities. And that road is an ancient and famous road that is called Route 60 in Israel.
Mm.
And it leads you, the truth is the full road takes you all the way from Nazareth to Shechem. Today you can't travel that bit because of political issues.
Mm-hmm.
But today the road goes from Shechem or Shechem. The Arabs call the place Nablus. It takes you down from there to Shiloh. We say in Hebrew Shiloh. Then to Bethel. We say Beit El. Then to the heart of it all, Jerusalem. We say Yerushalayim. And from there to Bethlehem. We say Beit Lechem. From there to Hebron or Hebron. And finally to Beersheba. You would say Beersheba. And these 7 cities with Jerusalem in the middle, it's like a perfect a crown. The crown jewel is right in the middle. 7 cities, 7 historic and biblical cities. They make up the vast majority of the stories of the Bible.
Mm.
Recently, I was in a historical place, and they had an old Christian map of the Christian Bible, the land of Israel, the Christian Bible and the land of Israel. This road was the thickest and most highlighted road in the whole map. It had all the writings all around it, because this is the travels of the people of the Bible. And just very quickly, just kind of to recall for people, what are the things that happened? Just very quickly. Shechem or Shechem, that's where Joseph is buried. That's where the famous mountains of the blessings and the curses, the Mount of Good Counsel, the Mount of Evil, it's still there today, these twin peaks. And right in the heart of those twin peaks is, in the middle of them, is the tomb of Joseph. That's where the Jewish people came to with Joshua, and they buried Joseph there, and had that event, what's it called? Grand kind of standing and the blessings and the curses. Next down from there is Shiloh. The tabernacle stood in Shiloh for 369 years. That's where Hannah prayed and received the blessings of Samuel the prophet, who was her child.
Oh, wow.
That's in Shiloh, and you go there today. It's amazing. You'll love it there, and you'll see how the Jewish people, and millions of them, were spread out in front of the tabernacle. You could see the valley there. The plain is more correct. It's a big plain. From there down south is Bethel. How many places in the world, Lauren, are named Bethel? How many Bethels have you bumped into in your life?
There's a Bethel in Minnesota. There's a Bethel College in Minnesota, in Bethel, Minnesota. There's a Bethel, Minnesota. There's a Bethel College. Pretty common name in America.
Why is that? Because the word Bethel really means, in Hebrew, Beit El, the house of God. And so anybody worth their salt that wants to make a church, a synagogue, a college, they'll call it Bethel, which is, I want to make a house of God. That's why that name became so prevalent, Bethel. And that's where Jacob had his dream of the ladder, connecting heaven and earth.
Wow.
Then Jerusalem, that's where Abraham almost sacrificed his son Isaac. That's where 2 Jewish temples, David's and Solomon's temple, and then the second temple, including Herod, that's in Jerusalem. Of course, important to the Christian faith and to the Muslim faith. And then Bethlehem, that's where very important for the Christian Bible, but also where King David was born, where Ruth came to from the fields of Moab. She came to Bethlehem, and I'm sitting here about 1 kilometer away from there right now. And that's also where the tomb of Rachel is. So Rachel is here. Ruth is here. It's a very strong women town. And King David was born here. And then south of that, we talked about Hebron. That's where the tomb of the patriarchs and matriarchs is, the fathers and the mothers. And King David ruled there for 7 years. And then finally, Beersheba, that's the capital of the Negev desert that comes off the mountain and suddenly into the desert plain. And that's where Abraham first pitched his tent. That's where
this is an amazing. How long is it? How many miles is the Route 60?
It's about 100 kilometers. Okay, how many miles is that? I forget. I'm sorry. I gotta do a translation of that, miles to kilometers.
We do too.
But it takes, you could drive the whole thing in 3-4 hours if you drove straight. But of course, you wouldn't want to drive straight. That's just the road part of it. But you would want to peel off and go see the place of Jacob's dream of the ladder. You would want to, of course, spend many days in Jerusalem, in Bethlehem, in Hebron, in Shiloh. There's a fabulous tourist remake of the Tabernacle and a great movie there. And the bottom line is that this is the most storied road in the world. It's just the most storied road in the world. And if you care about biblical history, or you want to care about the biblical history, we're working very hard now to make this road into, how should I say, I want it to be as famous as like any other tourist attraction. In France, you go to the Louvre Museum, Louvre, however, I should have picked something easier to pronounce. But, 11 million people a year go to that museum, enter the doors. This is going to be like that. It's going to be like Masada, Eilat, Tel Aviv, the biblical highway. So we're working on a website right now to help people learn about this amazing road. We're working on an application, an app, that will help you navigate this road and navigate its modern issues, including some of the political issues and all that. But at the same time, help you find the great wineries. Are you a wine drinker?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
You do? You're a wine drinker?
Oh, yes. Absolutely.
Okay. Not everybody is. We have some of the finest award-winning wineries along the way, and they love visitors. So we're going to also dovetail the Israel Biblical Highway with the Israel Wine Trail. And in general, we want to get people the heritage into their hands. And we're going to do it in fun ways. Some of them are American ways. Like, for example, I came up with this idea called the Bible Belt. I'm like, this is the Bible Belt, right? So we want to sell you a Bible belt. It's a belt with the 7 cities logos on along the way. Maybe when you drive from place to place, you collect a little silver thing that you stick on your belt, and you'll be like, look, I really drove here's the proof that I drove the Bible belt. I have the Bible belt with me. I put it on my wall. When I travel with my kids in America, we were in Florida and in Cape Canaveral, and we were amazed at how well it was portrayed. The whole space program and all that, the NASA thing, and we want to take a little bit of that and share with people the great heritage of the Bible and teach them about this road. It's something that it's being presented to the world as what it really is, a great and amazing road, which you can travel the past, see the present, pray for the future and the destiny of the world that's bound up with these places according to biblical tradition. And that's to me one of the most exciting. Everybody that I speak to about this just says to me, oh my God, that's like a no-brainer. It's like so It's like you're not even making anything up. You're not making anything new. You're just taking what is on this one road and saying, hey, there's a heritage highway here, a beautiful road that connects all this history, all this power, and all this human passion, and a way to walk and drive on a road which leads you, if I can use the cliche, a stairway to heaven. A road
it's really amazing. And I'm wondering if you can work out some of the, obviously, the political issues that you're bound to have when you go that stretch of land between, you mentioned, that certain area that you're not even allowed to go on yet. But can you work out some of these political issues, and what are they?
So the road itself is totally travelable. There's no problem with going on the road except for that one segment between Shechem and Nazareth. It's totally drivable. However, a few things. First thing, it's just a 2-lane highway, which means it's not the fastest road. It's in good repair mostly, but it's small. Second thing is that there is parts of the whole thing is controlled by Israel, the road, but some parts pass through areas controlled by the Palestinian Authority, which is fine. But we sometimes have conflict here, and that conflict makes people scared. They hear the word Hebron. They're not always sure that they want to go there, and they're not always sure that they're going to be getting there with clarity. Signage in the Middle East is not as good as signage in Europe or America. And so one of the things that we have to work on is making it a little bit clear where you are and how you get to where you're going, and give you a sense of safety and normalcy. Now, one of the things is that the state of Israel has not always seen itself as the country that's supposed to be presenting the land of the Bible.
Mm.
Yeah, you could go to Turkey and they will teach you about the city of Abraham called Haran. They will sell it to you. They will talk to you about it. They'll make a whole thing about it. But Israel has been ambivalent about its biblical heritage, which is so ironic, right? Because this is the land of the Bible. But the problem is that Israel's coming out of the Holocaust, out of Soviet communism, like my parents, who all manners of religion and knowledge about Judaism were stripped away from them. So Israel, in some ways, was formed as a secular country, and it a little bit didn't embrace its biblical heritage. On top of which, where most of this road is, not all of it, but where most of this road is in what we call Judea and Samaria, but where some other people call it, some of the world calls it the West Bank, and there's a conflict about who should be the controller of this land. So people like myself are very much in favor of Israel being the controller, but other people think differently. So to some extent, there's a conflict around this road. But I think that the way that I'm presenting it to you today, which is the Israel Biblical Highway or the Biblical Highway, it's not something of conflict. It's something of world heritage. And therefore, it really should be seen as a teaching tool, a connection tool to the Bible. And Israel, we are trying to get our country to invest more in understanding how important this road is, how important this history is. And Lauren, this is the part that I must stress. My beloved country, Israel, and my beloved fellow countrymen and brothers and sisters, Israelis and Jews, they don't understand how much of the world yearns to connect to Israel on that biblical level. They just don't get it. I meet people out there, Lauren, who just, when they find out I'm Israeli, they're just like, all my life I've yearned to come to the land of Israel. And they take out of their pockets a coin that they've gotten, a shekel or something like that, or a picture. They yearn for that biblical land. And sometimes my beloved country does not provide that thing that they're looking for. It provides them with Israel, the startup nation, and other things, but it doesn't know how much people want that, and therefore it has not, shall we say, branded itself or presented itself as the land of the Bible. So
Well, this is
part of my-
something that the Arabs and the Israelis can bring together. I mean, this is actually a possible way there can be peace in the Middle East if they band together over this sort of biblical heritage. Right?
Well, even that you have to know that the Quran and the Bible of the Jews and the Christians has similarities, but also has dissimilarities.
All right.
And so even that itself, which is what is the truth, is it's not just a battle between Fox and CNN. It's a battle between, great books of religion. But there are things that we can get together on, like the Well of Abraham, which everybody agrees is the Well of Abraham, and everybody wants to honor that important water source. Or the tomb of Abraham and Sarah and Isaac and Rebekah, Jacob and Leah. The truth is the Arabs and the Jews both agree. And I always say to them, let's honor our shared father together. Let us come together to beautify this place, which our father, our forefather, here he lies. Let us honor him. And people do understand that sometimes. The name Abraham Accords is a testament to this idea that we can get together around Abraham, around this biblical figure. And here in the Middle East, that means something. Like maybe somebody's listening to your show today, Lauren, and thinking like you can get together around Abraham. That's like that's like a storybook. No, here in the Middle East, if you don't believe in Abraham, that's weird.
Right.
And of course, and certainly Arabs, we have a lot of conflicts, but one thing is for sure, they are a believing lot. They are believing people. The Quran, Allah, Abraham, these are meaningful things to them. They very much, it's no laughing matter. So yeah, this is something that we can get together on. But Israel has to know that the world actually looks to Israel. Many people in the world, millions of people in the world. I was just in an airport in I think it was in Dallas, and I was flying to Miami on a speaking tour, and this lady at the American Airlines counter is looking at me, and I'm late, and I've got all my luggage, and I'm all discombobulated, and she's looking at me, and I could tell her I already know this look. Anyway, she asks me where I'm from. I tell her Israel, and she says to me, all my life I've wanted to travel to Israel. And then she starts getting a tear in her eye because she says, but now because of COVID, I don't think I'll ever be able to get there. I calmed her down, told her COVID's not, we'll get through this thing, but she was still emotional. I took out a coin that I usually reserve for like donors. And this coin has a picture of Abraham looking up at the stars. It's a coin that we designed. And on the other side, it's the tomb of the forefathers and mothers. And I said to her, you may have not come to Abraham, but Abraham came to you. You may have wanted to come to the land of Israel. Land of Israel came to you. She was just a ball of tears, a bucket of tears, and I just and it was real. It's amazing. I handed her this coin and ran to my gate, and that's it, and I think that my beloved country Israel needs to know that that's what a lot of people are looking for. And the biblical highway is a heritage highway, a little bit American inspired in terms of heritage highway, but it connects ancient cities that are 4,000 years old with great history, great stories, and thank God also a renewed life, a biblical style life in these places once again.
Before we go, just where are you in the process now of creating this heritage highway of Route 60?
So the highway itself is there. What's not there is the consciousness of it. So we're very much advancing in creating the website and teaching material. And I've hired a great kind of biographer and rabbi to tell the story of each city and write it out. We're making movies right now for it. And I'm working at the same time with the government of Israel to have it recognized and marked as such, the Israel Biblical Highway, and have its own signage. And we're working on all those fronts. But in the meantime, folks could already check out some of the work that we've done by checking out my website. Soon it's going to be on its own website, the IsraelBiblicalHighway.com. But in the meantime, it's on my personal website, which is Yishai Fleischer / Biblical Highway. It's how should we say, the ancient road is there, and you could drive it today, but the consciousness is really forming, and everybody that I've touched with this has said to me, this is just so, it's just the framing that it needed. It needed this love. And as I told you, even the Christian map that I found from 1943 knew it, but it just didn't have a name for it. So the name itself is key. And if you're traveling to Israel, and we're really hoping that this summer it'll open up. We really are hoping for that. And you just ask your tour provider, just say, I want to go on the Israel Biblical Highway. By the summer, there'll be a website that will teach you the history, the places, the connections. But in the meantime, you could go to any one of these places by just traveling Route 60 from Beersheba to Hebron, to Bethlehem, to Jerusalem, to Bethel, to Shiloh, and to Shechem, all on one road.
Yishai, thank you so much for being on Lighthouse Faith Podcast. This has been wonderful. Thank you so much.
God bless you, Lauren. Love your show. Thank you for all you do out there.
And thank you, too. And thank you all for listening to Lighthouse Faith Podcast. I'm Lauren Green. Have a blessed day.
All right, folks, you are listening to the Yishai Fleischer Show. Still driving here in beautiful Yerushalayim, heading south towards Gush Etzion, the mountains of Judea, that is. What a pleasure and honor it is to be with you. And I want to thank also the Land of Israel Network, which gets the show out to the world, and my co-hosts on the network, and all the good folks that put out great Torah. What a zchut it is to put out Torah. If you feel the calling, then please buy me a cup of coffee by going to buymeacoffee.com/Yishai. Thank you, Krista, for buying me some great cups of coffee last week, and it made me feel cheery and uppity. I don't mean uppity. I mean like up. I mean alive. Caffeinated. That's right. So thank you very much. So that's buymeacoffee.com/Yishai. And also, if you want to support some of the big projects that we do, please go to yishaifleischer.com/donate. And of course, how did I forget it earlier? The biggest sponsor that I have, other than, of course, number one is God Almighty, number two is Malkah Fleischer, but the important sponsor of this show is the Jewish community of Hebron and the Hebron Fund. HebronFund.org makes all the difference in the world to keep up the tomb of the forefathers and mothers and the community around it, and therefore your visitation to it, and therefore Israel's connection to it, and the roots are, what do they call in those, conditioner commercials? You got to, nurture your roots. Am I right?
There's so many things that happen in a shampoo and conditioner commercial.
Yeah.
There's keratin.
Well, if you have a keratin in your heart, okay, then please go to HebronFund.org or to YishaiFleischer.com/donate. And with that, I want to give you blessings from the land of blessings. Thank you for tuning into our unusual show this week with all kinds of different sounds from the car and from the wedding and from Fox, all that kind of stuff. Write me an email, YishaiFleischer.com. Thanks again to Ben Bresky, Moshe Herman, Yochebed, Tabitha, and Lou for getting the show out to the world. Lots of love and lots of blessings from the land of blessings and from the land of Judea between Jerusalem and Hebron, driving in the good land. May it send you its blessings. Lots of love and shalom.
This week on The Jewish Story, the Lebanon War, 1982.
These then are the three goals which will drive the war in Lebanon. Destroy the PLO's military capability, and hopefully with it, their political legitimacy. Number 2, get Syria out of Lebanon. Number 3, make an alliance with the Maronite Christians to reshape Lebanon's politics, hopefully forever. And all Israel had to do to achieve these goals was find a potential Christian leader in Lebanon and undertake a full-scale invasion in order to destroy the PLO, drive out Syria, and secure his power. What could possibly go wrong?
That's The Jewish Story with Rav Mike Foyer on the Land of Israel Network at thelandofisrael.com.